Yep, got that.
Yeah, we got it going here today. On this episode of Arch Talk 101. We're at podcast number 153 now. So we've been doing it for a while and having lots of fun. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your host in Arch Talk 101, and we have a special guest on the line with us, and we're going to let him introduce himself and then tell us a little something about him.
Well, thank you, Roy. I'm D Falks. I've been an archer for a long time. I don't know, almost 30 years. Um, I was the national director for the Archery Shooters Association from 2002 until 2022. I've been on the board of directors for USA Archery. Was there for 8 years. I was a JOAD committee member for USA Archery for over 6 years. I was instrumental in starting the Scholastic 3D Association, S3DA, and I was with Jenny Richardson from the start, from about 2003 until we formed S3DA in 2012 with NASP. And I've done a lot of contract work with the ATA and even wrote a book, Inner Archery. Know how good you are, believe it's good enough. And so, which you can also pick up on Amazon or Lancaster Archery Supply. But yeah, so I've had a good.
We'll leave a link in the description on how to get it for those that want to get it. That makes it easy for them to get it, to remember.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty fun book. We'll talk about it later. But
yeah.
I've had a really good career in archery, and archery has been very good to me. And now that I'm pretty much semi-retired, I'm not working for ASA anymore. I'm on the board for the S3DA. I wrote all their instructor curriculum. I do a lot of coaching. So I'm just having fun being semi-retired and traveling the world to archery tournaments and doing a lot of coaching and just having a good time.
Sounds like a lot of fun, and you've done lots of things with archery.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. I'm very lucky. And I just have to say that, I have to give so much credit to Mike Terrell and the ASA, because when I started there in the summer of 2002, he started me right off in 2003. We went to the ATA show, made some contacts, and he was not that interested in going to a lot of the big hoopla events like the ATA summits and all this stuff. He preferred to be a little bit more low key and manage ASA as a whole, and he sent me. And so, I got to make a lot of contacts, and it helped out. I just followed wherever they led me. And I got my coaching certification, and I got to work on Junior Dream Team and started international coaching. And so if it hadn't been for that job with ASA, I would just been another stick flinger out there, going to 3D tournaments and having a good time with the boys. But luckily, I got a job that literally promoted me, from the ground up.
That sounds really interesting. So, what made you get started in archery?
Well, back when I was a kid, I walked across the street to Sears and I bought this little blue recurve bow with some fiberglass arrows, and lost all my arrows shooting at blackbirds in the backyard. So that kind of ended that career within a week or so. And I didn't have enough allowance to buy any more arrows, so I just blew it off. But about 25 years ago, I didn't even own a bow then, and I was had a hunting buddy down in Fayetteville, Tennessee, and went down. We were supposed to clear some shooting lanes for rifle season. And I drove up into his driveway, and he was out in the backyard, had a bag target with a picture of a deer on it, and he was shooting arrows at about 20 yards into that bag target. And so I was joking. I said, "Donnie, what the hell? You can't even hit that bag with your bow. How are you going to kill a deer?" And he said, "Well, by the time you're in the tree stand in mid-November freezing your butt off, I'm going to have my tags filled and I'll be watching football." I didn't believe him. But at the end of the year, he told me he was going to buy a brand new Hoyt, and he gave me that old PSE Mach Flight 4. And that's what started my archery career. It had about a 31-inch draw, and I'm a 28-inch draw. I mean, I was anchoring back behind my ear. My wife thought it looked like fun, and so I had to buy her a brand new Matthews MQ1, and that started an escalating arms race to see who could spend the most money on the least amount of equipment. And it was a lot of fun. we shot archery every day, every weekend, went to archery tournaments, indoor, outdoor, shot field archery. And if he hadn't given me that old bow at the end of that year, I probably never would have gotten into it like I did. You know, I might have, maybe, but I tell you, old Don Dickey giving me that bow was what really started me on my archery career. And I mean, that old bow finally blew up, and I had to buy a brand new Matthews. And of course, more money, more money. I've shot everything. I've shot Matthews, Hoyts, and Bowtechs, and PSEs, Dartons. I mean, shot them all. And I just love archery, and I love coaching archery. And I have to, credit that old hunting buddy, man. He got me hooked, got me started, and it just took off from there.
Yeah, you never know, when you get into a sport or doing something, you're just like, nah, I don't want to do that. And then you go out, do it first time. It's like, oh, this is fun. And then you just keep going and going and going. And next thing you know, you've spent a lot of years doing it, and you don't ever want to stop.
Yeah, it's like that. I mean, the first arrow I ever shot out of that bow is still in the backyard there somewhere. I was about 20 yards from the target. I don't know. I mean, I didn't even know how to look, watch arrows fly. I just put a pin on the target and that old finger release. I pull the trigger and like, oh my God, where'd it go? It's not in the bag. So then I walked up about 5 feet from the bag, and then, did a little walk back from there to get my sights on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got me hooked. And I think my wife, shooting too, she said, man, this looks like fun. And so we started shooting, and it was indoor season. So we shot indoor. Then we went and started shooting 3D outdoor. Then we learned how to shoot field archery. And if she hadn't really, gotten to be so hooked, then I probably wouldn't have gotten to be hooked at such a high level. Because, I mean, we literally spent so much money on the sport that one day she was looking at the credit card bill and said, you got to figure out how to make this thing pay for itself.
Yeah.
So, I said, well, the only way to do that is like when I was skydiving, it's like, well, become an instructor. And so I got my instructor certification from Jenny Richardson. That was why I got started with NASP. And then I did that for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And then about 2007, I was talking to one of my buddies, and he said, well, how much you charge? And I said, well, back then I was charging $25 an hour for instruction. And he said, well, you charge $50 if you get a coach rating. I'm like, oh yeah. So I got me a coach certification, and that's where it really took off. And not because of the money, but once I learned what coaching really was and the opportunities that, would be afforded by being a coach, the travel and international work and stuff. And so my wife and I really used that as a reason to take vacations to foreign countries that we would never have gone to just to go vacation. But since there was an archery tournament, oh, heck yeah, man, sign me up. I'll go down to Guatemala for 10 days and have fun. So, I've been on 49 international archery events since 2009. And that's 49 places I would have never gone if I wasn't shooting a bow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then too, when you have business, that's business expense.
Yeah. You got to watch out. You don't take it into the red.
Yeah, well, you just got to have have the advantage when you take it and use it when you can, and that's what good tax accounts are good for. But
Yeah, I agree, man. It's been a real fun ride. And I've learned a lot along the way, and I mean, I left a landscaping business I built up after I retired from the Army, and I loved it because it was an instant gratification sort of thing. You go in, you plan out and you install some big landscape, and to me, it was always more important to look at it and say, man, this is really great. I took this yard from dirt to a showcase. And sometimes you'd make enough to pay for your work, and sometimes you wouldn't. But it was the satisfaction of just seeing that job well done. I got to shoot in archery, and after I'd been shooting for a couple of years, I was the Tennessee State Assistant ASA Director, which really isn't much of a job, but I had met Mike Terrell, and I guess I impressed him on the ASA tour on the range. One day I had a complaint, and I said, Mike, this is a bunch of BS here and blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, what do you want me to do about it? I said, well, here's what I think you ought to do about it. And so I let him know what I thought would solve it. And he says, you know what? What it was, there was a target that was about 4 yards too far. And back then the rule said, that there will be a measured distance, unknown distance, but measured. And so there was this antelope, and I was shooting with some high-powered people, Brandon Reyes and a couple of other guys. I mean, they're big-time archery now in the open sea class, and a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I shot that antelope first, and I went about a foot under its belly. I thought it was maxed out. I was like, oh man, it's further. So Brandon added some yardage and went over its back, and it was a terrible target. And at that time, Bill Baker who was the tournament director, was standing behind me. And I walked over to Bill and I said, damn, Bill, that antelope's way over 40 yards. And he pulled a rangefinder out and went, yeah, you're right. So, about that time, Mike Terrell walked down, and I kind of laid into him a little bit. And he said, well, what do you want me to do about it? I said, well, have them range them. I said, the thing is they can range just walk down, go, if it's a 40-yard range, 40, 40, 30, 40, 32. And if it's over 40, move the stake. I said, Christ, man, nobody, people don't mind if you set targets up and make it hard. They don't mind scoring low. But when they start missing targets and losing $15 arrows, they get a little pissed off.
Right.
Also, a couple months later, he came to me with a project called the Top Gun Team Challenge, and he wanted me to team up with Ginger Hopwood at the time and then get the Top Gun Team Challenge going. So we picked like 3 or 4 people each, and we had a team that we came up with this Top Gun Team Challenge, and it was really good. It ran for about 3 years, and then it kind of petered out. But the next summer, he came up and asked me if I would be his national director, and I was really excited. Like, oh man, that's really great. Thanks, Mike. Why'd you pick me? He said, well, you're the first person that's come up to me with a problem and offered me a solution on the spot instead of just bitching about it and walking away. So I guess I sure screwed that one up.
Yeah.
So, I had a good time. Like I said, I spent 20 years, 2 months with ASA. That's 1 month longer than I spent in the Army. And it really afforded me a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, that's quite a long time to be in that career, especially, if you enjoy it, it doesn't seem like that long, does it?
No, it didn't actually, and I look back and, I remember the first year is there wasn't a lot of stuff, for the ASA Federation, which is a big part. It's huge. And a lot of people overlook the Federation itself, which is all the clubs, the 350 clubs and the 10,000 members and, how many tournaments. I mean, the last year I was the national director, we put on 375 qualifiers and state championships. That was what I was in charge of, was doing all the coordinations for that. Me and my regional directors and state directors. And the first year after I took the job in August, I was up in a tree stand with a laptop, actually writing up, all the stuff, all of the procedures and policies and everything. And so it was a lot of work for about 2 years to really get things settled down and get the Federation to where all the states were following the guidelines, yet they were autonomous. I let the state directors do what they wanted to do. And so it was quite a full-time job. And, fortunately, I was able to work from home here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. I didn't have to go to the office. And that really helped a lot because I was able to just lock myself in the room and just do that work and be the ASA director and not have to get pulled, one way or the other from little ancillary projects, which just take away your time and really destroy your focus on the what's at hand.
Right.
So, but time passed pretty quick though. I look back and I was like, man, that was 20 years, and I had fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun, did a lot of stuff, and I think part of what I did was hopefully I had a little bit to do with getting ASA to where it is now.
There sounds like you had a lot to do with a lot of them getting started. And
Yeah. And I think S3DA was the most fun getting it started. And I had kind of backed away from all the NASP stuff because I had a lot of other things going on. And this was about, I guess, 2010, 9 or 10. And I was doing a lot of coaching, and I had backed away from NASP. And Mike Terrell called me. I think I was driving down to Louisiana to West Monroe for a pro-am. And he called me up and said, "Hey, have you got time to talk?" I said, "Sure, Mike, always got time to talk." And he goes, "Not to me." He said, "Jenny Richards." Well, yeah, I got time to talk to Jenny, but I knew from experience that anytime Jenny called, if you were going to be on the phone, you needed a couple of hours because she was going to talk your ear off about something. So he said, "Well, she's got a really important project that she's working on that Fred Pape's behind, and I need you to talk to her, and I need y'all to make this happen." Well, sure thing, whatever you need. And so Jenny Richardson called me up, and for about 2 hours on the road to West Monroe, we discussed the S3DA and what it was going to be and how it was going to be and what the rules were going to be and how we were going to structure it. And that was a very beneficial conversation. She and I worked together for about a year, laying all the groundwork for S3DA before we rolled it out. And it's become a super organization now. And I'm just so happy to still be a part of it, in some respect. I wrote all the curriculum for the instructor and coach certifications and help with the rules. I'm still on the rules committee, and then I'm on the board of directors, and I'm just really proud of the work we did on that. And because it's partnered with all three of the four major archery organizations. It's got ASA and NFAA and USA Archery are the main tournament partner organizations. And so, I guess because IBO is partnered with NASP, but I think S3DA and NASP will start working a lot more closely together now. But yeah, it was good, and I think that I may be semi-retired, but I'm not ready to fade in the background yet. I still want to have something to do with archery and the organizations that make up our great sport here in the United States.
yeah, it's nice being in there, and that's what I like about doing these podcasts, because I get to talk to archers, all over the world, all kind of different levels and all interesting stories, and I learn a lot from these, and I'm just hope that people listening or watching learn a lot from them too. And it's amazing to hear the stories, how some of these organizations started out, and your firsthand knowledge of how they started out because you were there.
Yeah, and it really was. I think my experience with NASP was invaluable with starting S3DA when I helped with that, because Tim Strickland had been really put in charge by Roy Grimes to write a curriculum, for the basic archery instructor and then the archery instructor trainer and then the archery instructor trainer specialist for NASP. And I was lucky enough that I was able to help with some of that. And Jenny and I would work on things, and then Tim would come in and pretty much correct everything that we had worked on. So, I mean, he's a great coach. I love Tim Strickland. I think the world of it. And so, we wrote that curriculum at the same time. The ATA was trying to standardize archery curriculum, because you had USA Archery that was working with the NADA, the National Alliance for Development of Archery. It was down in Florida, and Doug Ing was in charge of that, and they had a curriculum. It was pretty good. The level 1 was similar to the level 1 course that we're using now. The level 2 was a 3-day monstrosity where you taught string making and a lot of stuff. I mean, it took 3 full days to teach that doggone thing. And then their level 3 coach course was about a 6 or 7 day course at an Olympic training center. And so I took the level 2 course, and then I went and got my level 3 coach certification. And the ATA was trying to standardize all of the curriculums. And I think the NFAA and USA Archery were using the same curriculum with the 12 steps to the 10 ring or something, and a lot of different stuff because they had a different game. And then NASP really had to come up with its own curriculum because they were shooting at 10 and 15 meters in gymnasiums. And so there had to be some differences. And I think that what we ended up doing was we kind of modernized the instruction from USA Archery and NFAA that NADA was pushing. And so by modernizing that instruction, then we gave USA Archery, and because they had absorbed NADA by that time, and we gave USA Archery a reason to modernize their instruction. So they spent a lot of money, worked with ATA, and came up with a really snazzy level 1 and level 2 book. And in the meantime, I was working on the level 3 coach course. And this was in about 2008. And I was working on a level 3 coach course because there was nothing between the level 2 and the existing level 3. There was a big gap. And the existing level 3 course was really for like international coaching, development of Olympic athletes. And it didn't really concern itself with, the club level or a community level, like a golf teaching pro. You don't need to, be a master's winner to be a teaching pro at a club. And so I went to work writing the original level 3 course, which was designed to teach people to coach archery like at the high school level, the club level in a community. And when I met with Coach Lee at the time, and I still have the sheet that I wrote on, I had it listed like level 1, level 2, and then way up here level 3, and then way up there the level 4. And I wrote to the side level 1 and level 2. I put on there basic instructor, advanced instructor, and then in the middle that gap, community coach, and regional coach, and elite coach. And that was in about 2000, in the summer of 2008, and that's where those names came from. And he said, I like it. That looks good. And so we developed it. And I think 2009 or 10, the USA Archery adopted that course. And it's stayed relatively unchanged for about 13 years. This is the third iteration. They revised it once, and then now it's a lot online and just a little bit in person. And it's the whole coaching profession, I think, has changed from just shooting arrows and teaching people, oh yeah, you got to be in alignment, stay in your back, and make a smooth release. Now it's more centered on the mental game, and then a lot of physical activities too to strengthen certain body parts. And I believe that coaching, especially like the USA Archery Level 4 course, has really evolved. Now it's gotten into a lot of pedagogy and the actual means and methods of teaching, and recognizing at what learning level archers are. Are they associative or whatever? How are they actually processing this stuff now that you're teaching them? And I think it's a lot better because now coaches, instead of just walk up and go, okay, shoot 3 arrows, let me tell you what you're doing wrong, they're involving the archers in that training. They're saying, shoot 3 arrows, let me watch you, and now let me ask you some questions. And you tell me now what you feel. You tell me, how it feels. When you come at full draw, where are you feeling the tension in your back? How are you moving your arms? What's the balance on your feet? So, and you're making them more aware of what they're doing and how they're doing it, instead of just putting in 1,000 repetitions a day and say, okay, good, you scored 1 point higher. Progress.
That's not progress.
No, it's not. It's not. So I think there's a lot of good stuff going on in that realm, and it's because there's been a need for the evolution. Archery has evolved. I mean, when Brady Ellison broke the national record Rick McKinney held the national record for like 24 or 28 years for a feet around. And it took Brady Ellison that long to break that record, or it took that long before he broke it. But once he broke it, everybody was shooting that score. It's like archery, it took that long for it to finally get up to Rick McKinney's best day. But then once it did, it's like everybody was there.
Yeah.
And now if you shoot that score now, you don't make the cut.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting, how things advance. And I know um, I went to the NFA instruction in '95, and
Yeah,
that's when I got my instruction, certification for being an instructor. And then about that time, I was also doing martial arts at the same time. So I kind of took what I'm learning from martial arts and on the body mechanics and how the body works, and then putting them into the techniques that they were teaching, back tension release and all that kind of stuff.
right,
And my theory when I'm teaching somebody, I'm going to tell you how I do it, and then we're going to adjust it to fit you, because it's
right.
not going to work exactly for you. And I've always done that, teaching martial arts for many years, and archery and everything else. It's like you'll learn real quick, how to determine, something's not working. You have to go a different way. Maybe not understanding the words you're saying in the order you're saying them, but now you have to step back. It's like, okay, what different way can I teach the same thing? Yeah, we did that a lot in martial arts. The technique's the same. It's like I can teach you one way or the other way. One way you get it, one way you don't. And then same thing
Right.
with archery. You gotta just adapt to that shooter, because your body's different than mine. And every archer's body is a little bit different, and we have to adjust for it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that, I've always, working with Coach Lee, being able to work with him when I was on the junior dream team as a coach for that, like almost 10 years. And we would go to 4 camps and we'd, do other stuff. And but he always said that, the whole NTS method is not, it's not something that's set in stone that should be cradled to the grave. It's something that's a basic form. And this is how we teach beginning archers. But once they start to master this, then we need to start tailoring the instruction and the techniques to that archer. And he and I do too. I teach that there's 4 techniques to archery. There's the principle of alignment, and the principle of holding, and the principle of expansion with compound end recurve. It's the same thing. It's increasing back tension. And then the principle of follow through. And it doesn't matter what technique you use to get to alignment, as long as you get there. I
Right.
don't care how you do it. You just got to get there. But so many coaches think, oh, there's only one way, and I'm going to teach you one way to do it. Or there's only one way to achieve holding, or there's only one way to expand. There's only one follow through that I want to see. And I look at people that, especially at ASA, and I went to pro-ams for 25 years. And I watched Jeff Hopkins. Jeff Hopkins is one of the winningest pros ever to walk the face of the earth in ASA. I mean, even Levi Morgan. I mean, Levi probably still has yet to win as much as Jeff did as a pro and a senior pro. But Jeff has the most funky kind of release holding method. I mean, he gets up here at anchor and his hands all twisted around. I can't even get my hand in that position, but it wins for him, And I mean, who's to say that there's only one way to hold a release? No, there's not. You get to a consistent anchor. You develop your back tension, and then you maintain it through your release and follow through. I mean, I know people, we used to shoot with a guy here locally, everybody called him Shaky, because he'd hold so long that he'd just be shaking like a dang tree in a hurricane. Bam, X. It's like, what? And to do it again 5 times in a row, X, X, X. And he shoots 360 X's shaking like a damn bush in a hurricane. It's like, I don't know how you do it. I can't. So I'm with you. You find something that works. And if it's not working, then you should, as a coach, you should know about 100 different ways to make it work. And usually one of those ways is about 3 steps before the point where it's not working anymore. And because you just have to kind of unravel it until you get to that sequence. And so, and that's what I love about coaching, is just, the whole experimentation process until you find out what's going to work for that archer.
Yeah, the thing is, be consistent. If you can do it consistently every time, you're going to get better. That's the problem.
That's why they make movable sights, Roy.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear people, my arrows are all landing to the left. Well, then move your sight. Try moving your sight, see where they go.
Yeah, that's it's like, well, the sights are set, well, they can move, and
They can move us. I mean, I heard that Linda Beck told this kid we were at a tournament down in El Salvador, and he was, I mean, the boy was pretty good, and he was shooting it, hitting left or right, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he was shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting. And Linda kept telling him, hey, you know, you're hitting high, you're hitting high, you're hitting high. Finally, he came off the line and she grabbed me and says, do you have any idea how much money your daddy paid for a movable sight? Move the damn thing. It's like, yeah, man. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, he's shooting high. Oh, he's shooting high.
I mean, we can duct tape a toothpick on there if you want to, but you know, you're gonna pay $600 for a movable sight and a scope. You know, use it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and that's the great thing about archery is that you know you got all the different people and the different players, and I've just been fortunate to have associated with some really good people, and I've learned a lot from them. You know, I think that you know even somebody who's not that good, maybe you can talk to them a little bit and figure out, you know, what they're doing that makes them not good. And then you can use that knowledge to, you know, help your students or yourself avoid those same mistakes, you know? And so you learn something, you know, from everybody that you come in contact with, and hopefully
Yep.
they learn something from you, you know, and then that's the whole give and take of archery, the sharing of knowledge.
And yeah, and we get that a lot on here. You know, I share knowledge, and you know, I'm talking to share knowledge, and you know, it's like we're all learning, and we're learning every day, and that's the fun part. There's so many things you can do, and you know, I'm kind of one of the old school ones where I I do have a newer bow, but I have a 2001 a hunt with a 2003 that I have. And then I got a 2015 or 16 that I haven't even set up yet because I was working at Cabela's and they got in some defective bows, especially something was broke on them. And our store would get a big pallet of them. We'd put them all together and make stuff. So I managed to get, you know, $900 bear snow camo bow for like $150, but it needed
Whoa,
string.
man.
It needed a string. It needed, you know, the cable stop.
Yeah.
That was messed up. A few other things, and it was a return bow. And it's like, I make strings. It's like I can make a string every month and never run out of string material. I'm gonna have to buy my loop material, but you know, so I fixed it all up, and I still never set it up, but I still got my other bows that I shoot. So
No, but that's good though. Well, one of these days, one of them old bows is going to blow up on you, and you'll need a new bow. You got one sitting there, but you know, you talk about making strings, and it's really funny. I had gotten a bunch of string material from Bob from BCY, and it was stuff that's you know is off color or short rolls that were you know light and stuff like that. And so
yeah,
he made me a really good offer on those things, and basically he just gave me a sack of stuff and said, he asked me, he said, you charge your students for strings? I said, no, I teach them how to make their own strings. And I'm not going to make strings for my students. And he said, well, in that case, here, take this. They handed me a sack of stuff and had some spools of 8125 and 8190 and different size serving threads and some loop material. And so, you know, that's one of the first things is if I'm working with a recurve student, as soon as they get to where, you know, they're going to buy archery equipment is I teach them how to make a string, and I don't charge them for that teaching. It's like, come on up here, pick a day, pick a Saturday or something that you don't have anything to do because it's going to take about 4 hours to teach you how to make this string, and then you're going to make your first string that you're going to shoot on that bow, and they do, and it's amazing. You know, when they stand out there in the yard and we sight the bow in, they back up to 50 or 60 meters and put one in the 10 ring on a string that they just made, and you know, I kind of compare it to when I first started learning how to reload ammo.
yeah,
And, you know, because I've been shooting, I mean, all my life. My dad had us shooting 22s when we were 4 years old. And I mean, I killed my first deer when I was 6. And so, you know, I learned how to reload because me and my cousin, our allowance money wasn't covering all the shooting we did. Back then, powder was cheap. I pulled a can of powder out that had a $7 price tag on a pound of something from, you know, REI Sporting Goods. But, you know, I remember that first bunch of bullets I loaded and, you know, printed a group about the size of a quarter at 100 yards. I was like, oh my God, I was the happiest kid in town.
Yeah.
And it's the same way, with archers learning how to make their own arrows and make their own strings, and learning how to fit their own tabs and releases and all. It's amazing that it's just shooting a bow to me it's just kind of like monkey work. I mean, the bows nowadays, as long as you've got the equipment, and everybody makes good high-end bows, and they've got great sights, and there's not much difference between a Shibuya and a true ball and a whatever. I mean, they're all the same.
Yeah.
And you put that stuff on there, and you got the best equipment money can buy. If you can hold it still and make a good release, then you can group with that thing like never before.
Yeah.
So to make archery exciting, I think it's the educational process of the archers themselves. Is they need to learn to work on their own equipment. They need to learn how to make their own arrows, and they need to learn that stuff early on in the game.
Yeah.
Because I learned to make arrows. A buddy of mine, Gary Hudgens, we were down at the archery shop one day, and I had a half dozen arrows in my hand that had veins ripped off of them. And I asked the shop owner, I said, "Hey, Joe, can you refletch these arrows?" He's like, "Yep, it's going to be $3 a piece plus $1 for cleaning, $4." And Gary says, "What are you doing, man? You're talking like $25." And I said, "Well, I got no way to do it." And he pointed down in the showcase. He said, "You see that right there? That's a Bitzenberger fletching jig, best on the market. Get it." I was like, "But that's $60." He said, "Well, if you do this 3 times, you bought a jig." I was like, "Oh, ding." So I bought that fletching jig, and he came to the house with me, and I bought a pack of vanes and a tube of fletch tight, and I learned how to fletch arrows that afternoon. And I've been fletching arrows. I don't know how many thousand dozen arrows I've fletched since then. And so I think it's important that, when people in any sport, they need to learn, the mechanics of the equipment and the mechanics of the shooting, and then learn how to actually do stuff on their own, instead of just, "Oh man, well, this broke, I'll take it down to the archery shop and get it fixed." No, I mean, figure out how to fix it yourself. Make your
Yeah.
own string. Make your own string. So what? String material for the price is cheap. You can make probably 50 recurve strings out of an eighth ounce or an 1/8 pound roll, 2-ounce roll. And so, yeah, it's just part of the game. It's part of the sport.
Yeah. And, when I was getting mine, if I buy a roll of string material, I use 8125 for the compounds and
Mhm.
B500 for the recurves. BCY is pretty much all I bought.
Right.
But I'd buy one roll, I'd make one string, and the roll's paid for.
Oh yeah.
And I have enough to make, it's like 50 strings or better out of one of those 1-pound rolls.
Yeah, I took a roll, it was lime green, fluorescent lime green, 8125, down to Columbia, down to Medellin, Columbia. And it was years ago. And it was just in case somebody blew a string up, so we could make a new string. It had some D3 or 3D serving material.
Yeah.
Somebody needed a string. And I was like, okay, good. So I pulled it out of my bag, threw it to him, said, "Here you go." And then one of the Colombian kids came up and he said, "Hey coach, can I borrow your string material? I need to make a string." I said, "Sure, go ahead." And I said, "Just use whatever you need, man, bring it back." He said, "Oh, okay, great." Well, I guess he didn't quite understand that I meant for him to use whatever he needed, because turned around about 2 hours later, and there was like a dozen lime green strings going across that field. Brought me the roll back, and it looked like it hadn't even been used. It's, because it's like, dude, give me that string. I didn't mean for you to make the whole team strings, but they did. That was like the color of the day, man. I swear they had a dozen lime green strings that they made. Everybody needed a new string.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's
yeah,
kind of fun. It's just making all kinds of different ones. And I know I was doing some things on making strings, and I made up some little sample ones to kind of show, well, okay, here's lime green and pink.
yeah.
And then I need another one, purple and pink. And here's another one. I think it's copper and blue. Black and copper, I think this one is. And then I just made one. I've made some what I call braiding instead of just regular twisting.
Right,
What I do ends up doing is a twist on each side. So you put them
right.
inside of each other, and then they form little V's in your string. And
Huh,
when I had my store, I just made a video. I just uploaded it to my YouTube channel as well as Archery Talk 101 Facebook group. And I got a friend of mine that when I have my store, I don't remember doing it, but I must have made his wife one of those strings because he started making strings. He's down south something. I forget where he's at now. But so started making strings, and his daughter says, "I want one like Mom's got." He didn't know how to make one
oh
because
my gosh.
I don't know of anybody that's made strings that way.
You
And
had to, you
so
had to figure it out, huh?
yeah, so it's like, well, I'll make a video and I'll post it, how to do it. And I kind of did. I made a 50-inch string, and then I made exactly 50 inches, and then I, twisted them inside and out, kind of what I call braiding, and then measured it. It didn't change, and then I put like 12 twists in it, and it shortened it, half inch,
Right.
a quarter inch. First one is I tie my ends together, so I have a continuous loop, and then on the jig I'll turn the ends of it and I'll stretch it before I even do any serving on it.
Right. I
Now it's
do. I
stretched.
serve it under pressure. Yeah, I serve
Yeah.
mine under pressure.
And so I started at 50 inches. And then after I tied all the knots, got it stretched out, I was 50 and a quarter. And then, I did 50 wraps inside out. And then
Right.
I did, no, I did 25, I know 50 wraps inside. And then I did 25 twists. And now it was a quarter inch shorter than 50 inches. So then I took, 13 of them out, so I had 12, and then it
Right.
put right back the same length. So, I kind of wanted to show, how much stretch you're going to get. And I know some people don't tie them and then they stretch them after they've made them. Well,
Yeah.
they got to stretch them out after that. I stretch them before. So now I know I can put the twist back in it to get it back to the length I want. I figured that by twisting them inside out, kind of braiding them, they would shorten up a little more than it did, but it didn't really shorten up much. It's when I started twisting them that I really got
Right.
them to
Yeah.
shorten.
The twisting them is what shortens them up. I do that with mine. I take them and make sure I serve off end loops and all that, and then do the twisting and put them under pressure to serve them because it locks that serving in.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, and I don't, none of my archers, they all make them because I teach them that way, and you don't ever have that situation to where they're, on end number 7 of a long day, and then, oh my God, coach, my end serving's coming loose, and my center serving's coming loose. Don't run into that. It stays pretty good. But yeah, I tell you, I love this sport, and it's just so multifaceted now too, with all the international competitions. And I remember used to going to an indoor World Cup was like a big deal, and now people are just like, oh yeah, I think I'll just go to Madagascar, or I'll go to Nîmes, or let's go to wherever. Let's go down here to Singapore, and they go all over. I got 2 students now that they were in Berlin, for a tournament, and then went to Kings of Archery in Denmark. And 20 years ago, that would have been unheard of unless you were a traveling pro.
Yeah.
But now if you've got a bow and you can find all your arrows after every end, then you can go where you want to go. There's so many open events, open world ranking events, and I think that is a good thing for archery. And I tell parents, it's like, hey, you want to take a vacation to Medellin, Colombia? Oh yeah, well, good. Then get your kid ready to shoot that Pan Am Championships, which is an open event for cadets, or now it's U18, U21 adults and masters, and you can take a 8-day vacation while they're sweating on the archery range. Put them on the bus in the morning and meet them at the bus in the afternoon, and I'll watch them for the rest of the day. There you go.
Yeah. Hang around with them. Leave them with the coach. He can do the babysitting, right?
That's right. Once they're on that bus, they're taken care of.
Yeah. Get them on the bus and you got somebody watching them.
Yeah, but that's getting. I've seen more and more is that the people are bringing their wives and significant others on international archery trips, and while we're all on the field, the the plus ones all get together and go on tours and whatever. And so and it's a big thing. And I think it's a good thing. I mean, so maybe it costs you a couple $1,000s a piece to go spend, 8 days in Iguazu Falls, Argentina. But it's going to cost you at least that much or more if you go on vacation.
Right.
So, and I know we just they just had a Pan Am Field Championships for the first time in 42 years in Iguazu Falls, Argentina. And it was great. It was an awesome tournament. It was hot and it rained a lot, but we had a good time. And those are just, times that as an archer, you look back on them. If you've never been on a real international event, it's something that you really should do, and you can register for the things through USA Archery and or now even World Archery. They have what they call Open Waros, the World Archery Registration Enrollment System, and you can register straight through World Archery, and then you just buy your own plane ticket. You pick the hotel you want to stay in, throw them your credit card number, and that's it. You're on your way. So it's gotten easier now, where it used to, 15 years ago, oh man, it was a big production to go to an event outside the United States. But now it's just simple. It's really a matter of just going online, registering for the event, buy you a plane ticket. And once you get there, your feet never touch the ground. They pick you up at the airport, they put you on a bus, they take you to the hotel. Then they take you from the hotel to the tournament, and from the tournament back to the hotel. Maybe the only thing you have to buy is sometimes dinner's not included, or maybe there's lunch on the field. And you just really, you live a pretty good life for about 8 days. And you get to shoot a lot of archery and eat some stuff from a menu that you can't translate. hoping you're ordering something safe. That's what they make Google Translate for, so you can hold it up over the menu and he'll translate it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I use that every once in a while when I get someone makes a comment and it's like, I don't know what they're saying. I put it in and say, okay, figure out what it says, and then translate to English. And I've had some, it's like, that still don't make sense. I don't know what you're saying. And I'll just say, oh, thanks for the comment,
Hey, Google Translate's got me out of some jams, and I've used it for Russian and Polish and Czechoslovakian and Spanish, and I don't know what else. But yeah, that's a great deal, man. Yeah. Well, hey, I got about 5 minutes, and I have to go to my future daughter-in-law's as a concert, so I'm going to have to.
Oh, don't miss that.
No, I don't want to miss that. I want this girl to be my daughter-in-law. So, but yeah. So, what else do we need to talk about real quick?
Well, I would just say, what would you say to somebody that's just starting out in archery? What would you say to them?
I would say that the first thing that I think they should do is to buy the best equipment that they can afford. And I believe you buy once, you cry once.
Right.
And that's it. And you get the best that you can afford, both bows, arrows, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then take advantage of every opportunity that comes by to learn something. Question people, talk to them, ask them. Archers are the most, think, giving people in the world when it comes to advice. I've never met somebody that, walk up and go, why do you do that? Why do you shoot like this? Why do you hold your release like this? And they'll tell you everything. I mean, and you got pros, they'll do it too. I mean, Braden Galantine and Jesse Broadwater and all those guys, Steve Anderson, man, you go up there and tell, even like Chance Bopeth. I've known Chance since he was like 13 years old. And you ask them something and they will tell you exactly why, and even show you how to do it, And so never, pass up an opportunity to learn from the best, and never pass up an opportunity to learn what not to do from the worst. And just get out there and shoot. Just grab your bow, find yourself a coach if you want to. I mean, it's not inexpensive, but I think a good coach is a valuable thing to have, because you can call them up any time of day or night and say, oh man, I'm having a problem. Okay, send me a video, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And so that's it really. buy good equipment and learn from everybody and everything, shoot your bow and find yourself a coach. And if you do that, I think you're going to have a really good time in archery. And it's a never ending sport. There's so many different things that you can do. 3D, field, target, indoor, outdoor. I mean, it's all there. You can shoot yourself into a coma every day of the week and still not do it all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some good advice. You just got to get out there and get the equipment that you want. And there are things that I recommend, if you have a choice, buy a really good release and spend less money on the bow, because the release is going to help you shoot better.
Yep.
And, I always like to tell people, it's like, oh, you're in archery? I use a wrist strap? Yeah. Well, I'll give you first lesson free. Quit pulling the trigger. It's like, how do you know I'm doing that?
But I pull through the trigger.
I've seen people take finger way above their eye,
Oh, dude,
and they just
wind it
slam on
up.
the trigger.
I watch them wind it up.
Yeah, it's like you see that. It's like, oh no, don't do that.
Oh my God.
Let me help you. But that's why I put my instructor patch on my quiver. I figure somebody has a question. It's got the patch on it, says I'm an instructor. Come up and ask me. I don't go up to them and say, hey, I can make you shoot better.
No,
they're
of course
not. If you want help, ask me. Like you said, somebody's shooting, they're just gonna help you out. And I was talking to one of the guys, he was shooting against one of a top shooter, and he was struggling, and he's competing against him. He comes over and helps him.
Yeah.
It's like he's helping you beat him.
Yep.
And that's just what we get. And
that's the kind of people that archers are. They really are. So,
yeah.
Well, hey, I tell you what, I really appreciate this. And if you decide you want to do it again sometime in the future, man, let me know. I can talk archery for days.
Yeah. Well, anytime you want back on, we'll come back on, and I'm not opposed to having you back on. We'll pick a different subject to talk about, and
Hey,
there's
maybe
always subjects we can talk about.
maybe we talk about reloading ammo and deer hunting or something.
Yeah. I've been reloading. I got my first reloading press in 1976.
Yep.
RCBS rock chucker, and I've loaded thousands of rounds.
Oh man. Well, I tell you, I'm right there with you. I've got an RCBS progressive, 4-station progressive. I don't use the progressive mode. I do everything by hand, but I've got, and I think I got it back about the same time, about in the mid to late 70s.
Yeah.
And that hunk of cast iron has saved me $1 million on ammo. But,
oh yeah. Well, the nice thing about reloading, same thing was doing your own equipment in archery, is I was able to work up a load from my 06 and my 270 to put 3 shots in the same hole.
Right.
Factory ammo, you can't do that.
No, but you can. I mean, you can go up a half grain, 1/10 of a grain. I mean, I use an old RCBS 505 beam scale.
It's like what I have.
And I actually take it, throw it short, trickle it in, and then the last couple of kernels, I pick it up with tweezers. But yeah. Well, hey, I got to run, Roy. I appreciate this, man. It's been good. It's been fun talking to you.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun having you on, and we'll have to do it again. And for those that have made it this far, we'll put a description in there on how to get a hold of the different things we talked about. And we'll see you on the next one. And this has been a lot of fun. My name is Roy Canterbury. I've been your host on Archery Talk 101, and we'll see you on the next one.